Okay, I'm going to be giving you some directions on how to rewrite the LEQ from the last unit test and how to earn back some of the points that you may have lost on the test. To do so, I wanted to go over some examples of what I believe to be quality work. So I'm going to share my screen here. All right. Um, Now, I'm not going to post this document that I have here because anytime you need to review it, you can simply get back on the video and pause it if you need to read through it. But let me just go kind of step by step here. Remember, the first two rubric points are about thesis and context. Those come in your introductory paragraph. Now, the reason that I'm giving you this particular um, these particular examples is because I feel like these were people who gave me what I was looking for, but also they gave it to me in a very efficient and clear, straightforward way. They did not try to, you notice none of these are really, really long paragraphs. They're relatively short, and they're very right to the point. So what was I looking for? Well, I needed to know what life was like, for context anyways. I needed to know what life was like for Europeans prior to this industrial revolution and what led up to this industrial revolution. Um, Generally speaking, people gave me a little bit of information about some of the things that caused the revolution. But I think most important, since we're talking about how it affected people, they said things like, before the Industrial Revolution, people lived in the countryside. Um, that's the type of phrasing you need to have in this particular essay. Um, Here again, most people were agrarian. Families worked on farms. You notice they're touching on what life was like for people before the Industrial Revolution occurred. So I've given you those three examples to read through. Now, obviously, you are welcome to borrow. You cannot steal from them, but you get the point of what you're looking for. Evidence. I gave entire paragraphs instead of just picking little parts out because I thought it would be easier for you to see a paragraph in completely from someone who did a strong paragraph that had evidence in it. Now, these are excellent examples because first they explain what industrial revolution life was like for people, and then they make sure they tell you how this was something new, how it was a change, because that's what you're asked to do in this essay. How did it change lives? So they generally include, although they can include other things, but at some point, um, they tell you, they use words like transformation, change, things like this that are clear examples of how things went from one way to the other. Um, Here they're talking about producing some certain goods, and then they talk about after the start of the industrial era, um, things changed for them. So you need to be clear that this is not, remember, these are not paragraphs just describing what the Industrial Revolution looked like. These are paragraphs describing how life changed for people because of the Industrial Revolution. Here, very specifically, before, workers were used to working irregular work hours. They'd start their day whenever they wanted and would work depending on the need for crops, right? That's the way it used to be. Then it says after industrialization, and then they describe that. You notice it does give you a pretty good thorough description of what life was like for these workers. But first they tell you what it used to be like, and they're telling you how it changed. I think I've given like 4 different examples. I'm not sure, but there might be some examples beyond just the working class as well. This does not have to just be about how workers' lives changed. It can be how the lives of the middle class changed, because remember, they became richer uh, by investing in a lot of these companies and businesses and inventions. So there are other ways to, other things you can talk about beyond just this. But usually these paragraphs begin by saying, we're going to talk about, in this case, the last one, living conditions, or as the ones I mentioned earlier, working conditions. that's kind of how a lot of people divided up their paragraphs. They said living conditions change this way, working conditions change this way. Then finally, the complexity. Most people, there were a couple others that gave me good complexity paragraphs that were not uh, about counter arguments, but most of them were. So I've given you the examples of counter arguments. All these people did was tell me that even though the Industrial Revolution changed things for a lot of people and it had a big impact on society, there were some aspects of society that did not change. Uh, they People included things like income disparity, the difference between rich and poor, the condition of women, the condition of children. They found ways to explain that even though there was a lot of change going on in the world, there were some things that were not changing. And that was a good counter argument for the Industrial Revolution caused a great deal of change. So this is all for you to look over again if you need to. Here is what I'm asking from you. When I don't think you have to unsubmit now because I've returned everything to you, but you can simply resubmit your assignment, your rewritten essay, to the original unit test assignment. So you'll turn it in there. I don't care if you write an entirely new essay or if you edit what you have. Either way is fine. You do not need to resubmit your previous version. I'm going to be grading these as if they're brand new. So I don't need to look back and see how things were. I will see what your score was on the test, so I'll probably know what I gave you by looking at that. But otherwise, I do not need you to resubmit an old version. And you must have it completed by 3 p.m. today. This is the only way that I can grade it. If it's at 3:01, 3:02, I'm not going to regrade these. Now, how will you earn points? Well, if your new essay earns all 6 rubric points, I will give you back half the points you missed on the test. And I've given you the example here. If you got a 10 out of 20 on the test, you missed 10 points, I'll give you 5 of those back. If you missed 4 points and you still want to redo this, I'll give you 2 of them back. Now, I will give some points to everybody who improves their essay, even if it doesn't earn a 6 out of 6. Let's say you got 1 out of 6 on the first try. This time you earned 4. All right. So maybe you were one of these people that got 10 or 11 out of 20. I add 3 points, maybe 4 points to help boost your score up. So you don't have to get a perfect essay to get some kind of benefit. So that's how we're going to be doing this. Again, 3 p.m. today. That's when you can turn it in, and I'll look forward to looking over those this weekend. So I will see you next week.